My name's Jack. I'm 39 years old, and I've worked every day of my life since I was 15. Started with stacking pallets in the back of a grocery store, ended up running logistics for a regional shipping firm. Blue collar that turned dark blue with time, still work boots in early mornings. But now I get to call a few shots. Not many, but enough. I take pride in that. I don't complain. I show up, I do the job, I keep the lights on. Simple math. Effort in, results out. Home life? Married 12 years. No kids. Not for lack of trying, just never happened. Or so I thought. It was a Thursday night when it landed. I remember because Thursdays are late inventory days, and I didn't get home until almost 9. The house was dark. Quiet. Our little two-bedroom with the oak floors I refinished by hand. Smelled like lemon oil and something too clean, like someone had wiped the place down in a hurry. That kind of smell has a way of warning you before anything else does. Her note was on the kitchen counter. Folded once. No envelope. Just sitting there between the salt shaker and the bottle of cheap white wine she always said she liked and never touched. I opened it like it was some jury summons or tax notice. Nothing grand. Just a few lines in her tidy, almost nervous handwriting. Jack, I'm pregnant, but the child's not yours. I'm sorry. We'll talk soon. That was it. Not even signed. Just K. I stood there for a while. Couldn't tell you how long. Long enough for the fridge motor to kick on and whine, then cut off again. I wasn't shaking. My heart wasn't racing. I just stared at that note like it was confirming something I already knew. And it was. I walked to the liquor cabinet, bottom right drawer of the hutch in the dining room, hidden behind a stack of mismatched placemats, and poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon. Neat. Sat down at the table we used to laugh around, before the laughter thinned out and the silence started stretching longer between words. I knew this was coming, I said to no one. And I did. I'm not the most intuitive man, but I'm not stupid either. I know when a woman stops reaching for you. When conversations get short. When her phone starts living face down. When she suddenly has girls' nights that smell like men's cologne. When the perfume she never wore before becomes her new favorite, subtle, expensive, and not for me. There was a night 2 months ago I remember clear. She came home late, said she'd been with Amy. I asked how Amy's husband was doing. She froze just a little too long before answering. Amy's husband had moved to Dallas last year. Another time, I caught her crying in the bathroom. She said it was stress. Hormones. Her work. I offered to help. She said, I don't want your help. I just want space. That's the kind of sentence that echoes. Not because it's loud. Because it's final. I didn't argue with her. I didn't beg. I didn't raise my voice. I just started planning. See, my wife thought she was good at hiding things. And maybe she was. But I'm better at seeing patterns than she is at breaking them. I'm a logistics man. My job is to spot cracks before they spread. I'd already met with a lawyer once, quiet coffee shop on the east side, no paper trail. Just a conversation between a man who smelled something rotten in his house and another man who knew exactly how rot works. That lawyer? He gave me advice I took to heart. Document everything, he said. Stay calm. And don't let her know you're preparing. So I did. I stayed quiet. I smiled. I played along. I made dinner. I kissed her forehead when she looked tired. I acted like a man who still believed in us. But every time she walked out the door with her keys in one hand and her phone in the other, I took another mental note. And now here we were. She finally dropped the act. I sipped my bourbon. The burn was good. Familiar. Grounding. I didn't cry. I didn't punch the wall. I just sat there, staring at the note, then folded it and slid it into the side drawer of the hutch, right next to the USB drive with all the screen recordings I'd saved. My hands were steady when I picked up my phone. At the top of my favorites list, Eric M. Attorney at law. He answered on the second ring. I figured I'd be hearing from you soon, he said. You were right, I told him. It's go time. Because while she was out making bad decisions with some fool who doesn't know what a mortgage is, I had already tightened the bolts on every part of the ship. She thought I'd be caught off guard. But I had my lawyer on speed dial before she ever got knocked up. Her name's Karina. 36. Sharp as a tack and twice as polished. I used to call her the storm in heels. She came for money, at least the kind of money that comes with silk blouses and expensive skincare routines. Met her at a conference in Phoenix when I was still working mid-level supply chain. Back when I still believed those name tags and breakout sessions actually led somewhere. She was in marketing, pitching some campaign about brand synergy or consumer engagement, something shiny and hollow like that. She talked fast, smiled big, and had ambition dripping off her like perfume. I was the stable one. The man who always paid the bills on time, remembered to take the trash out, and didn't mind eating leftovers 3 days in a row. She was the fire, the push, the one who ordered appetizers and dessert because life's short. And at the beginning, that worked. We balanced. She made me dream bigger. I made sure the dream didn't collapse under its own weight. But balance doesn't last when one side decides it's bored. She came home the next morning after her little revelation note. Didn't even look surprised to see me sitting at the dining table with a cup of coffee, scrolling through the news like it was any other day. "I didn't expect you to be here," she said. "Where else would I be?" I replied without looking up. She stood there for a moment like she was waiting for me to yell, break something, fall apart, whatever reaction she'd rehearsed for. But I just kept sipping. "I want a divorce," she said flatly. I nodded. "I figured. I'll be fair about it," she said. "We can split the house, the accounts, your pension." That got a small twitch at the corner of my mouth. My pension? I've seen goldfish with better poker faces. "You think I'm gonna fight you?" I said. "I'm not." That threw her off. She shifted her weight, arms folded now. Defensive stance. "I just want what I'm entitled to," she said. "Of course," I replied. "You always have." That earned me a glare, but I didn't push it. Let her stew in the silence while she tapped her phone, probably messaging him. And him? Oh, I'd done my homework. Chase Bennett. Real piece of work. 34. Drives a leased Jaguar and calls himself a performance coach. Runs a YouTube channel with thumbnails of his face pointing at quotes like "Success is a choice," and "If SG won't, another will." You know the type, too many followers, too little wisdom. His whole shtick's built on selling confidence to men who don't have any. Pep talks wrapped in Rolex dreams. I recognized him the second I saw a photo pop up in her camera roll 6 months ago. She'd been showing me pictures from her work event, slides, canapes, selfies with coworkers. And then there he was, tucked neatly between photos of wine glasses and keynote speakers. His hand just a little too low on her back, her smile just a little too bright. Not proof, not yet, but enough to flip a switch in me. So I started prepping. Private folder on my laptop. Encrypted. Labeled, just in case. Receipts. Phone logs. A credit card charge from a hotel in Atlanta when she told me she was flying to see her cousin in Denver. Screenshot of an email she left open, "Had a great night. Can't stop thinking about you." She deleted it 30 seconds later. I'd already saved it. I didn't confront her. Not then. That's not how you win. I stopped leaving things in her reach. Changed my login credentials. Moved half my savings into a separate account, quietly, legally. I even canceled the joint Costco membership. Petty? Maybe. But it made me feel better. I started recording dates and inconsistencies like a man keeping score in a rigged game. You don't sharpen your knife during the fight. You do it long before. Now, sitting there with her tossing out words like amicable separation and reasonable settlement, I just nodded. Let her believe I was broken. Let her believe she was the one holding all the cards. She headed upstairs, probably to start packing some nonsense, her crystals, her wrinkle serums, her TED Talk books. I waited until the door clicked shut, then got up and walked to my study. Pulled open the bottom drawer of my file cabinet, the one she thought was full of old tax returns and instruction manuals. I reached in and pulled out the folder I'd labeled in Sharpie. Just in case. Inside were weeks of research, dates, screenshots, financials, and one printed email from Chase to Karina. "I can't wait until he's out of the picture." I smiled as I flipped through it. Out of the picture? We'll see about that. My lawyer's name is Raymond Dorsey. 62, white hair slicked back, always in the same three-piece suit that looks like it's seen more courtrooms than the average criminal. The man's got a voice like gravel and a stare that could shrink a judge. You don't hire Ray unless you're expecting a storm. And you don't call him unless you're ready to win. I met Ray a year and a half ago. Funny how that works, right? Most men don't even think about lawyers until their lives are burning down around them. Me? I smelled smoke when Karina started calling me Jack, Les, and Babe, never. I wasn't just planning for a rainy day. I was planning for a damn hurricane. "Jack," Ray said as I walked into his office that Friday, "you look like a man who's just been handed a live grenade." I handed him the note Karina left. He read it once, didn't flinch, just set it down on the table and reached for his coffee. "Well," he said, "it's showtime." Ray and I had been laying groundwork for months. Quiet work. Nothing flashy. No emails. All face-to-face, all off the record. I wasn't hiding assets. That's illegal. But I was organizing them, shielding them, moving them out of reach like a man sliding valuables into a vault before a break-in. First came the LLCs, one for the rental property, one for the boat she never used but always bragged about owning. Technically, I don't own either of them anymore. The LLCs do. And those LLCs? Managed by a trust. A trust set up long before Karina decided she wanted to start playing house with a self-help huckster. Ray set that up like clockwork. Ironclad. Legal. Ethical. Watertight. You followed every step to the letter, he reminded me. Asset protection's not about hiding. It's about structure. You built a fortress. Now we just hold the gates. And the house. That was the best part. Karina had no idea that I sold it 3 months ago. Oh, she still lived there, sure. Nothing changed on the surface. Mail came. Groceries in the fridge. Her makeup all over the bathroom counter. But the title had already changed hands. I sold it to a shell company, a holding company my cousin manages, then leased it back under a rental agreement. On paper, I'm just the tenant now. Just a guy renting a house from a property group. She thinks she's about to take the house. I told Ray that morning, sipping the office's terrible coffee. Ray smirked over the rim of his mug. She doesn't even know you sold it. Exactly. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about winning. It was about not getting sucker punched. She thought I'd sit still while she lined up a new life with a man who thinks wearing loafers without socks makes him a thought leader. She thought she'd walk in, drop a few tears in court, and walk out with half of everything I built. But she forgot who I am. I don't spend a decade building a life just to hand it over like a party favor. Still, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't bracing for impact. That moment came fast. 3 days later, a man in a cheap brown suit knocked on my door. He held the envelope like it was radioactive. "Jack Weaver?" he asked. I nodded. "You've been served." Inside the envelope, a summons. Karina was suing for half the marital estate, including alimony, including the house, including what she called emotional compensation for abandonment. I read through the paperwork on the porch, flipping pages as the sun went down behind the neighbor's oak tree. She really went all in. She had a lawyer. She had affidavits. She even listed her lover's apartment as her future place of residence, like she was already living there. Bold move. I stepped back inside, shut the door quietly, and pulled out my phone. Dialed Ray. "It's on," I said. Ray didn't miss a beat. "Let's dance." The courthouse was colder than I expected. Not the air, the atmosphere. Fake wood paneling, flickering fluorescents, and people in suits pretending to smile while quietly sharpening knives behind legal briefs. I wore the same gray jacket I'd worn to my dad's funeral. Simple. Clean. Not trying to impress anyone. Karina showed up in heels that clicked like threats across the tile. Power suit, fresh blowout, a necklace I bought her for our 9th anniversary. Nice touch. She didn't look at me. Just walked past like I was a stranger sitting between her and a settlement. Her lawyer, a guy named Joel Kessler, was everything Ray wasn't. Young, smug, and just polished enough to mistake confidence for competence. He looked like he practiced his smirk in the mirror every morning. And then there was him, Chase, sitting in the gallery, arms stretched across the bench like he owned the place. Aviator sunglasses perched on his head like we were in a summer blockbuster. When he caught my eye, he winked. I gave him nothing. Ray leaned in as we took our seats. "You ready?" I nodded. Been ready since she downloaded Tinder on my birthday. Proceedings kicked off like they always do. Her lawyer opened with flair, tugged at heartstrings, played the loyal, betrayed wife card. Claimed she was left emotionally shattered. Claimed I abandoned the marriage while she suffered. Said she was entitled to a fair and equitable share of marital assets and continued support reflecting the standard of living she'd grown accustomed to. Ray didn't even blink. When it was our turn, he stood slow, adjusted his cuffs like he had all day. "Your Honor," he said, "we have no interest in slandering Ms. Weaver. We simply wish to present the facts." He handed over a file thick enough to stop a bullet. First came the receipts. Literal ones. Hotel stays in 2 cities. One charged to a card we shared. Chase's name on the check-in log. Dates that lined up exactly with business trips Karina claimed were for women's leadership seminars. We pulled bank records, travel itineraries, even social media metadata. Ray kept it calm. Matter of fact. Every time he slid a new exhibit across the table, her lawyer's face tightened by a degree. Then came the photos. Screenshots from her iCloud. She'd left her laptop open once, And let's just say she wasn't great with two-factor authentication. Nothing explicit. Just enough to kill the illusion. Hotel lobby selfies, his hand on her thigh. The same t-shirt in 2 cities. Timestamps to match. My personal favorite was one of them clinking champagne glasses in a hotel suite the night I'd been homesick with the flu. Karina didn't say a word. Just sat there, arms folded, mouth pressed in a line. Then Ray went in for the kill. "Your Honor," he said, "we'd also like to submit a final piece of evidence. This pertains to Ms. Weaver's pregnancy." Her lawyer stood. "Objection. Irrelevant to the division of assets." "Actually," Ray replied, "it speaks directly to spousal claims, intent, and financial deceit." He handed the clerk one more envelope. I watched Karina's head tilt just slightly. Confused. Curious. "Mr. Weaver took the liberty," Ray continued, "of requesting a non-invasive prenatal paternity test using material collected legally and ethically from shared residential waste." That made Chase sit up. Specifically, Ray clarified, Ms. Weaver's discarded coffee cups, utensils, and a prenatal vitamin wrapper containing trace fetal DNA, cross-referenced with Mr. Weaver's genetic material. The judge's eyebrows climbed. Karina's face dropped. Ray turned to the bench. "The results confirm with 99.99% certainty that Mr. Weaver is not the biological father." The courtroom went dead silent. Chase shifted in his seat like someone poured ice down his back. Karina's eyes darted, first to the folder, then to me. For the first time in months, she looked scared. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just looked her straight in the eye and gave her the only truth I had left to offer. "I knew," I said quietly. "I've known for months." She opened her mouth. No words came. Ray turned back to the judge. "With that clarification, we rest our argument against financial support or shared equity claims predicated on the assumption of parental responsibility." It was clinical, surgical, devastating. Because the facts don't need to scream. The facts, Your Honor, are enough. Court was recessed for lunch. The air felt heavier now. Like everyone in the room had just realized this wasn't going to be the cakewalk Karina promised. Her lawyer, Joel Kessler, shuffled his papers with less swagger, his cufflinks no longer catching the light quite so confidently. Ray leaned over. "He's sweating." I glanced at Joel. "Good. Means he's finally catching up." Outside the courtroom, we stepped into the hallway. Karina kept a few steps back, whispering furiously with Joel. She was red-faced now, whatever mask she'd worn coming in had cracked clean down the middle. Across the corridor, Chase leaned against a pillar, arms crossed like he thought he was still in control of something. Joel approached us just before we hit the elevator. "Off the record," he said, voice lower than before. "My client's open to a settlement." Ray raised an eyebrow. "Is she now?" Joel cleared his throat. "Given the new information, we think an uncontested divorce, with modest spousal support, might be a fair resolution." She walks away. No drama. No media. I stepped forward. Calm. Steady. "There's only one deal on the table." Joel looked at me like I just pulled a switchblade. She signs a full confession of fraud and adultery, waives all rights to spousal support, and walks away with exactly what she brought into this marriage, which is to say, nothing. Joel blinked. "You're not serious." "I'm not bluffing," I said. He glanced at Ray. Ray just smiled. "Then we'll see you after lunch," Joel muttered. While we waited, I thought back to how we got here. 6 months ago, when I saw the signs, Karina's sudden interest in privacy, her new passwords, the extra business trips, I didn't just sulk. I acted. Ray had advised me to begin discreet restructuring. That's when we built the corporate trust. See, most folks don't realize that assets don't have to sit in your name to be yours. My company, technically a small logistics consultancy, became the custodian of our major holdings. That second property? Sold to the business at a fair market price. The investment portfolio? Assigned to the trust. The trust? Managed by an independent executor, my cousin Daniel. Every move, every form, every dollar accounted for. No shell games. No funny business. Just a clean transfer into something she couldn't touch, because in the eyes of the law, it wasn't ours anymore. It was the company's. And Karina had never worked a single day for that company. She thought marriage gave her a stake. She didn't know the assets had left the table before she even filed. We stepped out for a minute to grab coffee from the cart out front. Ray peeled off to take a call. That's when I felt someone move in behind me. "Hey," Chase said. I turned slow. There he was, close enough I could smell his cologne. Something expensive, probably named after a yacht. I'm just gonna say this once, he said, voice low. You're embarrassing her. You're making this messy. Be a man. Take the L. Move on. I took a sip of my coffee. You done? I don't want to have to get involved, he added, puffing up. But I'm not afraid to. I smiled. Not a big one. Just the kind you give a man who brought a butter knife to a gunfight. You think this is a street fight, I said. It's not. He cocked his head, confused. This is chess, not checkers, I said. And you? You're a pawn who thinks he's the king. His jaw tensed. He looked like he wanted to say something, but he didn't. Instead, he turned and walked away, muttering something under his breath. Let him huff and puff. I wasn't the one who bet the farm on a woman who lied to two men at the same time. I turned back to the courthouse, finished my coffee, and stepped inside. Back to the board. You'd be surprised how fast a support system evaporates when the truth shows up wearing a badge and carrying receipts. Karina always had a circle of friends who toasted her Instagram wins, family who bragged about her at holidays. Back when she played the role of doting wife with a bright career, they couldn't praise her enough. She was their star, the girl who married down to a guy with calloused hands but a steady paycheck. Then the court filings went public. Turns out, people don't like being lied to. Especially when those lies come with screenshots, hotel receipts, and a DNA test that says oops, not his. Her parents, Margaret and Lou, stopped returning her calls. I know, because they sent me a handwritten note. Handwritten, like it was 1953. Said they were deeply ashamed and that they'd been misled. Lou even underlined disappointed twice. Margaret wrote in a postscript, you always treated her better than she deserved. I didn't frame it or anything, but I kept the letter. Her friends, the ones who used to smile through wine-stained teeth and tell me how lucky I was, started falling away too. Social media scrubbed. Group chats silent. Turns out the influencer crowd has a short memory when scandal doesn't trend in their favor. And Chase? Well, the motivational Romeo started putting space between them faster than a politician in a scandal. By the time our third court date rolled around, he wasn't sitting in the gallery anymore. He'd skipped the last two hearings, and I heard through the grapevine he was reassessing his brand. Apparently, baby daddy to a married woman wasn't the image he was selling to his audience of insecure men and overpriced seminars. Karina looked different that day. Lighter makeup. No designer sunglasses. No entourage. Just her and a legal pad she wasn't writing anything on. For the first time, she looked small in a room she once thought she could dominate. That afternoon, Ray and I stepped out for a break. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then I listened to it anyway. Jack, it's me. I thought maybe we could talk. No lawyers. No fighting. Just us. The voice was soft. Familiar. The voice of the woman I married, not the one who tore through our vows like they were temporary. I just miss, she said, then trailed off. Can we talk? A year ago, I would have given anything to hear that. Today? I hit reply and typed out one sentence. I don't talk to thieves. Then I blocked the number. That last day in court, she sat alone at the front of the room. Her lawyer had just delivered the final concession. No claim to my pension, no house, no support. She'd signed the affidavit. The one that said, in clean legalese, that she'd engaged in fraud, infidelity, and had forfeited all marital claims. The judge read the document aloud. Her eyes didn't move. She sat frozen, staring at the floor like it might offer a way out. No one showed up to support her. No parents. No friends. Not even the Instagram preacher in leather loafers. Just Karina, sitting at that table with her hands folded too tightly and her mascara starting to run. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel pity, either. I just felt done. 12 years unraveled in 12 months. The final stitch came loose that day. And when she finally looked up, eyes glassy, face pale, I didn't look away. She had made her choice. Now she was just living with it. Life after the fire is never as loud as the blaze. It's quieter, steadier. You learn to appreciate the sound of your own breath again. After the dust settled and the papers were signed, I went back to work full-time. Focused. Sharp. Maybe sharper than I'd been in years. There's something about walking through hell that either burns you hollow or forges you into something solid. Turns out I was the second kind. 2 months later, my boss called me into his office. No warning, just a nod and a got a second. I thought maybe he'd heard the gossip, court drama tends to travel. Instead, he offered me the regional director position. Said he'd been watching how I handled myself lately. Calm under pressure. Focused. We need more of that at the top, he told me. I thanked him, shook his hand, and didn't let the smile show until I hit the parking lot. It wasn't just work. My life started to fill in again. Old friends I hadn't seen in years started reaching out. Some I drifted from during the marriage, others who'd backed away during the mess. Funny how people scatter when things get ugly, but even funnier how the right ones come back when the dust clears. I started mentoring a few guys, too. Friends of friends. Men who were where I'd been, shoulders slumped, trust shattered, wondering how the hell you go on after someone you gave your life to tosses it in the trash. We'd sit in coffee shops or meet in the park. I didn't give speeches. I just listened. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes a man doesn't need advice. He just needs to know he isn't crazy for caring, or broken for hurting, or weak for staying calm when he wanted to scream. At night, the house was quiet. Not empty. Just quiet. I learned to enjoy cooking again. Nothing fancy, steak, roasted potatoes, garlic broccoli, that sort of thing. I poured a glass of red, queued up Coltrane or Miles Davis on vinyl, and let the saxophone fill the corners she used to haunt. The bed stayed made. The thermostat stayed where I set it. No more perfume ghosting through the hallway at 1 a.m. No more whispered phone calls behind bathroom doors. Just peace. I started reading again, stuff I used to love before life got too loud. Books with bent corners and dog-eared pages. Hemingway, Baldwin, a little Cormac McCarthy when I wanted the silence to feel earned. One Saturday afternoon, I was cleaning out a drawer when I found a letter. Handwritten. Envelope smudged like someone had held it too tight. It was from my niece, Lucy, my brother's girl. 17, bright as sunrise, and always had more insight than most adults I know. She'd stayed with us once when she was little, called me Uncle Jay, and followed me around like I was a superhero. I hadn't realized she was still watching. Her letter was short. Uncle Jack. I know things got bad for a while. I saw stuff online. Mom said people were mean and didn't know the truth. But I just want you to know I saw how you handled it. You didn't yell. You didn't fall apart. You stayed calm. You protected what mattered. I want to be like that when I grow up. I'm proud of you. Love, Lucy. I sat there for a while. Letter in one hand, bourbon in the other. Not crying. Just thinking. We spend so much time trying to make sense of betrayal, trying to find the justice in it. But sometimes, justice isn't a gavel or a courtroom win. Sometimes it's a 17-year-old girl saying she's proud of you. I folded the letter and tucked it in the top drawer of my desk. Not to keep score. Just to remember. Forgiveness? Yeah, I believe in it. But forgiveness isn't weakness. It just isn't owed. The final day of trial felt more like a slow exhale than a victory lap. Courtrooms aren't built for drama, no matter what TV tells you. They're built for grind, procedure, patience. By the time the gavel hits, the war's already been fought in documents, strategy, and the ability to keep your mouth shut when everything in you wants to roar. We were the first case on the docket that morning. Karina showed up in a beige coat and dark sunglasses like she thought the press outside might mistake her for someone famous. The only cameras there were from a local blog that covered courtroom gossip. But even they weren't on her side anymore. The judge reviewed everything, reiterated the key facts like he was writing the final paragraph of a long obituary. The prenup, fully enforceable. Adultery and financial deceit, proven. Defamation, specifically the lies she'd fed to friends and posted under burner accounts online, corroborated through her own IP logs. Paternity, tested and confirmed, not mine. Her lawyer looked like he aged 5 years during the hearing. Joel barely made eye contact as the judge methodically dismantled their case like it was a sandcastle facing the tide. And then came the final insult. Chase took the stand. His lawyer had pushed for a deal, cooperate, testify, walk away without civil charges. The moment he opened his mouth, Karina's expression turned to stone. I was misled, he said. She told me they were separated, that the baby was his. I wouldn't have pursued her otherwise. Ray leaned over to me, whispered, snake shedding his skin. I didn't nod, didn't smile, just watched. Chase explained how their relationship had started, texts, meetups, long weekends she called conferences. He admitted he never asked questions, never cared about paperwork or facts. But once the legal fire started licking at his shiny leather shoes, he got real humble real fast. She lied to both of us, he said, and I regret being part of it. Ray gave a single, deliberate nod. Well rehearsed, he murmured, but effective. The judge dismissed him without fanfare. Karina didn't even look his way. Whatever spell she had over him had snapped clean the moment his own neck got tight. When it was all said and done, the verdict was simple. Karina would receive no alimony, no child support, no claim to the home, business assets, or retirement funds, no deferral on legal fees. She'd walk out of that courtroom with exactly what she brought in: her last name, a baby that wasn't mine, and a reputation torn apart in a room full of witnesses. As the judge rose and banged a gavel, I stayed seated for a moment. Let her walk ahead. Let her feel that silence as every eye in the gallery followed her, not with envy or pity, but curiosity. The kind you give a fallen star or a burned-out wreck on the side of the road. She shoved the courtroom doors open like she could still make an exit dramatic. Cameras flashed. Reporters barked questions she didn't answer. Someone shouted her name. Someone else yelled, "Is the baby his?" I don't think she even heard them. She kept walking. Past the press, past the sidewalk, past the man she once said she loved. Her story was done. Mine was just turning the page. Viewers, this is the end of the story. We would be very grateful for your likes, comments, subscriptions, and sharing of our stories. See you next time.